I would like to extend a warm welcome to all members of the Cabinet, other members of the Council, members of the public and officers in attendance at today's Cabinet meeting on the 3rd of December 2025. Welcome to members of the public and press who may be watching the meeting live on YouTube. I am Councillor Jill Cleary, Leader of the Council and Chairman of the Cabinet. I would now like to hand over to Democratic Services to read the housekeeping note.
Thank you. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast live on the Council's website and on YouTube. It will remain available for a minimum of 12 months. I would remind those in attendance to use your microphone when speaking and to switch it off once you have finished. Please also switch any mobile devices to a silent setting for the duration of the meeting. If the fire alarms ring, please can everyone leave the room immediately and use the nearest fire exits, but do not use the lift. Please go to the fire assembly point located at the bottom of the car park by the garages. Thank you.
Please would members introduce themselves during the meeting, if not already introduced by name. Apologies, we have none received from any Cabinet members. Item 1, Leaders' Announcements. I was pleased to attend the opening event of our latest housing development recently in New Milton. This, along with another recent development in Hythe, has given 2 more affordable housing sites, providing another 45 homes, all allocated through our Home Search Housing Register. Our information emails to residents continue to perform well, with the latest reader survey giving a score of 9 out of 10 for usefulness, ease of reading and relevance. This is especially important as we head into the 3rd and final phase of the improved WAIF service at the start of next year. That we are communicating well with our residents is very important to us. Our trees and grounds maintenance team care for over 28,000 trees in the district, and this winter we're planting 200 new trees in parks, housing areas, cemeteries and open spaces. My Christmas started early. I was invited to Bewley and the opening of their Christmas pantomime themed rooms. If you get the chance to go, I can highly recommend it. The decorations are spectacular. More rooms are open than ever before for you to see. I would like to thank Lord Montague for the invitation. I really enjoyed my visit. And I'll finish by reminding you that the government has now launched their statutory consultation on changes to how councils are organised across Hampshire and the Solent. As you would expect, I am keen for you all to take part in this consultation and for you to encourage a strong response from your residents. Thank you. Item 2, Minutes. Do Cabinet members agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of November 2025 as a correct record?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 3. Do members have any declarations of any pecuniary or any other interests in respect of the business for this meeting? None? Thank you. Item 4. Public participation? None. Right. Item 5. Medium-term financial plan, general fund update. Can I take you to the portfolio holder, Councillor Jeremy Herron? Jeremy.
Thank you, Chairman. They say that a week is a long time in politics. Well, it certainly is in local government finance. When I talked to you last time, I was talking to you about how pleased I was with some of the settlements, or the proposed settlements, and how we would look over for a deficit of only £500,000 over the 4-year period. Oh, but wish I could report that now. Unfortunately, the changes in the government's way of calculating how they pay money, they seem to like to give with one hand and take away, has severely impacted on our finances, and we are now looking at a 4-year deficit that will extend probably to 3.8 million at the current figures. Unfortunately, what we've seen is the Fair Funding Review has seemed to favour the town centres and cities rather than the rural community. What a surprise there. We have an additional 1.5 million investment into the waste service that requires to be covered. That will, in the short term, be helped by the extended producer's responsibility income, but not long term. Pension costs, again, a positive for this one on us, and we will have a reduction in our premium of 620,000 over the next year on year for 3 years, so that will be a very positive one for us. On the whole, we still remain in a strong financial position, even though life has gone a little against us, and I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I take you to Paul Whittles, Assistant Director of Finance? Paul, would you like to add anything?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, so just to confirm, this shows the latest position for the Council's General Fund covering the period to 2029-30. As already explained by the portfolio holder, the overall position has worsened due to the changes, or the likely changes to the government financing. This shall be confirmed by the Provisional Local Government Financial Settlement later this month. But unfortunately, there's been the likely removal of new burdens funding, as well as a reduction due to those changes in methodology based on the rural status of our council. The waste investment, fortunately, we do have a likely increase in our extended producer responsibility funding. This should increase from 1.75 million to 2.4 million, so in the short term that will mitigate some of those losses. However, this is extremely volatile, so future years cannot be guaranteed. We do have some options to close the gap over the 4-year period, but it is worth reiterating the importance of applying strong financial management to sustainably resolve the situation. And finally, the paper also asks Cabinet to endorse the approach for finalising the asset maintenance and capital budgets, which is the same process as in previous years. Thank you.
Thank you. Cabinet, do you have any further comments, questions? Then I'll take it to the floor. Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, unless Councillor Heron knows something that the rest of us don't, I don't think we're going to be here in 29-30 to worry about that particular point you raised. We're moving inexorably into LGR. Now, I understand that it's comfortable to carry on managing the way we have going forward, but we need to look at doing things slightly differently. I take the point about the deficit we're going to be in, but in point 35 in this report, it says every year we put 1.1 million in capital from our revenue. Now, if we don't do that, plus the fact that the interest rates are very high at the moment, we've already going to put another 400 extra in the budget, and interest rates are easily as good as they were last year, if not better, and then we got 1.3 million extra interest rates. That will, by adjusting those two things, doing it differently, the deficit will not only disappear for this year, it will disappear for the final year of the council. So, while as the position is not ideal, it's not as good as it could have been, it's not going to be that bad and will give us a bit of headroom to do some things perhaps in the final budget year, which is the next budget year where we have total control of our finances before we are restricted by LGR, to do something for the people of the New Forest. It would be unforgivable if we had the opportunity to give something back to our residents when we didn't. We left it in the bank for it to go to the new unitary. Understanding we need to leave our finances in an appropriate, well-managed and sensible position, and that goes without saying, but there is sufficient headroom to do something beyond that if we look at things a little differently and do things differently, Chairman.
Jeremy, would you like to?
Chairman, interesting take on our finances, but if you'd also turned further through the paper and got to item 12 where the waste service budget position is shown, you'll see that that capital money is needed for waste trucks. So if I can't buy the waste trucks, I'm very confused how Councillor Wade thinks he's going to collect the waste and deliver the services that the people in the New Forest require. We still have long-term commitments to meet. We still have to, although the council will end, and it will, it doesn't disappear. Our commitments to our people and for longevity and for a continued service will still be there. I'm not entirely sure whether Councillor Wade is suggesting that what I pass on to a new authority is a train wreck, and that our residents just live with that disaster because it made life easy for him, or a short statement might hear. But it really is a matter of being responsible with our finance, something that this party, our Conservative Party, is well known for. Others may not be. But it is very important that we remain responsible, even though the future is not ours, the future is others. We still need to remain responsible through that process and to hand over a council and an area that is in sound financial position and can continue to deliver the services, whatever authority comes after us. I really can't support his methodology, and I don't actually think, if I do crunch the figures, that it will do what he hopes it would anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. As there are no more questions or comments, can I take the Cabinet to pages 3? The whole report is 3 to 18, and the recommendations are on page 3. Cabinet, do you agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 6, medium-term financial plan, this time housing revenue account update. Can I take you to the portfolio for introduction, Councillor Steve Davis?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. As the report states, the Council has a legal requirement to set an annual fully funded balanced budget and must plan its finances over the medium-term period. But it's worth pointing out that financial stability over the medium to long term is underpinned by the Council's 30-year HRA business plan, with its development supported by third-party expertise. It's worth pointing out, Chairman, before I hand back, that HRA resource will be required over the short-medium term to facilitate the orderly transition of services into the new unitary authority as part of the local government reorganisation. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Heron, as it was joined at the hip before, do you want to say anything?
I will briefly comment, Chairman. The reason for splitting this out, although it falls within my portfolio and under the medium-term financial plan, we thought we would split this out sometime because it very often gets overlooked, and yet it is pretty much a success story of this council on the fact that we budget incredibly well, we invest in our housing stock, we invest in new development, and through that is a significant amount of money, 11.114 million included within the HR reserve, and it just sometimes it just gets a little overlooked when we just present it as part of the medium term. So we just wanted to bring it out so that members and the wider community could pick up on it and realise that actually this is although a small and ring-fenced section of the council's finances, it does extremely well and serves this community in the best possible way. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I now take you to Paul Whittles, Assistant Director Finance? Paul, do you have anything to add?
Thank you. So yes, similar to the previous report, this covers the 4-year period to 29/30, and the only significant activity since the last update was the improvement due to the same pension reduction contributions. But other than that, nothing significant has changed since the October update. Thank you.
Thank you. Cabinet, do you have any comments or questions on this item? No? I will now take it to the floor. Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you. Are we confident that as we move into LGR, we'll be able to leave our housing stock, because some of it is quite old, in the best possible maintained condition for the new authority, new unitary to take over? And I ask that because the age of some of the housing stock is quite old and does need a lot of work.
Councillor Steve Davis, would you like to answer that?
Yes, I would, thank you. Absolutely. Obviously, this is an ongoing project, as you know, to actually keep our housing stock up to the best possible level. Our stock condition survey at present is 87% completed, be fully completed by end of March next year. We'll have a better picture then, but we're already prioritising the improvements to those that are most in need. So I'm confident that our legacy, our housing legacy, will be a great success story. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? No, thank you. Cabinet, can I take you to the recommendations on page 19? Do you agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 7, allocation of community infrastructure levy, which is known as SIL, to local infrastructure projects. Can I take you to the portfolio holder, of whom is Councillor Derek Tipp?
Yes, thank you, Leader. This report is to seek Cabinet approval for the allocation of Community Infrastructure Levy, as you say, SIL, funding to local infrastructure projects for 2026 to 27. Following a competitive bidding process, 92 bids were received, requesting in total £3.8 million. After assessment against the criteria in the SIL expenditure framework and recommendations by a cross-party task and finish group, 24 projects are recommended for funding, totalling £1,018,365. I would like to thank those councillors who gave their time on the task and finish group, along with the officers who assessed all the bids. Congratulations to those who were successful, and to the many who did not make it, I hope you'll be successful in a future bid. These projects range from school facilities and sustainable transport improvements to community amenities and environmental enhancements, supporting our corporate plan priorities for people, place and prosperity. I'm asking Cabinet to approve the supplementary budget of £18,365, with £1 million having already been included. Endorse the list of projects and agree to open the next bid window in spring 2026 for the 2027 to 28 allocations. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. I'd now like to take you to Dean Brunton, who is Service Manager Planning Policy, Infrastructure and Delivery. Dean.
Thank you, Chair. I think the only thing I'd like to add is thank you for everyone who took the time to submit a bid as part of the process. And just to clarify, the supplementary budget of £18,000 is for next financial year as part of kind of approving that, not this financial year. But thank you.
Cabinet, do you have any questions? Councillor Dan Paul.
It was just to sort of highlight the point again about Derek mentioned the councillors that give their time for these task and finish groups. It's a lot of work, not just the councillors, but the staff as well. It takes an awful lot of time to put the work in, and it's really lovely to see so many various good causes catered for. I just this week had the community grants, which is very similar in the way that the process is run. And again, I thank the task and finish group members for their time. It is, if you work, you wouldn't be able to do it unless you took substantial holiday. So I absolutely acknowledge and appreciate all the work that goes into these.
Councillor Jeremy Heron.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to comment on this, that obviously SIL is the Community Infrastructure Levy, a levy against development designed to offset the impact of that and support the community. Obviously, whilst that money is sat in an account, it does very little to offset those issues arising and supporting the community, and it is great to see this money going out into the community and delivering on those promises for people and improving basically the lives of the people in the communities in which we live. And I'm really pleased to see it go out, and like Councillor Paul has said, grateful for those who've put the time and effort in to wade through a significant number of bids in order to deliver this for our community. Very good news and excellent for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Steve Clark?
Thank you, Chairman. As Chair of the Task and Finish Group, I'd like to start with an apology in that we couldn't quite make it around £1 million and we overspent by about 18,000, but not too bad in terms of percentages. Can I just start off by thanking the officers? The scoring system that we operate now actually makes the task of the members much easier because it's a really good scoring system, but it is exceptionally well put together, and the criteria which are employed by Hilary and Dean and the other members of the team, of course, does in fact make that process much simpler. And bearing in mind we started off with 92 and had to whittle that down to the much smaller number that you see today. That could have been a lot of officer time extended over several days, but we were able to do this very quickly and very efficiently. But also to the members, and it was pointed out that this was cross-party, so everybody from all aspects of the membership of the councils was fully involved in this. There were good, healthy discussions at all times, and in fact, questions raised which we dealt with outside of the meeting, which actually reflected the local knowledge and the involvement of members in the community to come up with some small changes and the overspend, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, I think it's quite good that we did spend the money. So just to finish off, can I once again thank the officers, but also the members for the time and consideration that they gave. And of course the Cabinet this morning, because I hope you're going to endorse the recommendations.
Thank you. Can I just say, I am really, really pleased that Calshot, Fawley Parish Council, managed to acquire the funding for the crossing point on the B3053, adjacent to St George's. That will open up that hall for more community people to use it and children to actually cross the road to play together. Vitally important, the work that is going on in Calshot. Thank you. So, can I now go to Councillor Malcolm Wade?
Thank you, Chairman. And it is really good to see all these projects supported across the forest, no doubt about that. I've got a question, really, and I'm pretty sure there isn't, but just to clarify, can you confirm, as we move into the final years of this council, will be any restriction of what we can use our SIL funding on, especially in the last year of the council? And if there isn't, can we look to try and spend as much more possible on providing some even more good produced projects such as this across the forest? Because we do have quite a few pounds in the bank which we do not have to pass on to the Unitary Authority and can hopefully support some more projects right across the forest.
Councillor Tipp, would you like to answer that, please?
Well, yes, I mean, we are certainly spending much more than the £1 million. We've got strategic SIL, lots of bids going into there, and lots of bigger projects. I mean, the 1 million was limited to maximum of 100,000, so obviously bigger projects will spend the money more quickly, and we've got a very good framework in place for sorting out these projects. So yes, we're hoping to spend it quickly and efficiently.
Right. Nobody else? Can I take Cabinet to the recommendations on page 27? Cabinet, do you agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 8, Council Tax 2026 to 2027, setting the tax base. Can I take you to Councillor Jeremy Heron, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Every year you offer me this item every year. I still haven't quite got my head around how anyone manages to calculate it. And the decimal point always intrigues me that we've got that level of understanding. Chairman, the one thing to mention this year is the fact that last year was the first year of our second home policy, and we had to take an educated guess, I would say, on the level of those properties within our district. This year, we have managed to pick that up and reflect more accurately the position, and that has been one of the significant changes in the numbers on our council base. With that, I'll pass it across to the officer who actually understands it and works it. Thank you very much.
I should go to him first, really, shouldn't I?
Absolutely.
Can I go to Ryan Stevens, Service Manager, Revenues, Benefits and Customer Services? Ryan.
Good morning, thank you. So as portfolio holder said, this is our annual report that sets the council tax base for 26-27. Detailed calculations are involved looking at the number of properties in each council tax band for each town and parish. From this we work out the number of council tax discounts, exemptions, band reductions, council tax support claim and awards and premiums, which as the portfolio holder has stated is now based on actual amounts and not an estimate as per when we set the tax base for 25-26. All these figures are converted to a Band D equivalence. We then also factor in an estimated in-year collection rate, which consistently remains at 98.5%. So the overall tax base increased to 950.8 to an overall amount of 74,305.8. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Cabinet, do you have any questions or comments? No? I will open the floor. Councillor Philip Dowd.
Thank you, Chair. This is always a difficult process, and balancing the operational needs from the people who are inevitably affected by the decisions made is always a tricky one. And it can never be. You can't have a bespoke system that is designed around every individual. So I absolutely recognise that. I'm curious to know, because we have had issues where some people have clearly been disproportionately affected. It is a small number, but it's a significant number. So I'm just curious to know the level of oversight, looking at how it's panned out, having made these changes to the system, particularly harmonisation of universal credit. Thank you.
I think you might be referring to item 9, Council Tax Support Scheme.
I'll come back on that one.
Okay.
I beg your pardon.
Can I then take Cabinet to the recommendations on page 37, please? Cabinet, do you agree?
Agreed.
Now we are on item 9, Council Tax Support Scheme, Council Tax Premiums, S13A Policy, Discretionary Housing Payments Policy and Crisis Resilience Fund. I will go to the portfolio first, which is Councillor Jeremy Heron.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, can I advise of a change in the recommendation? The recommendation shown on the paper. This is not for Cabinet to agree. This is for the Cabinet to recommend to full council for agreement. So just that change to start with. In a paper that actually is showing no change really from the previous scheme, what we're doing is we're rolling it forward into April 2026 pretty much as it is. So I think I have very little to add to it. I will leave Councillor Dowd to come here, and then we'll come back when he's run his piece again, rather than preempt him on that one. Thank you.
Okay, can I take us again to Ryan Stevens, Service Manager, Revenues, Benefits and Customer Services. Ryan.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add a bit more detail, so our council tax reduction scheme supports roughly 8,000 claimants with help for paying their council tax, with a level of support being roughly £10 million per year. Councils have the responsibility to determine their own local support scheme for those of working age, with those support for pension age claimants set by the government. There are no proposed changes to the scheme from April next year. Council tax premiums were introduced from the 1st of April this year for properties that are unoccupied and furnished, and for those properties that have been empty for more than 1 year. There are no proposed changes to these premiums. The report is also recommending the approval of 2 policies: the discretionary Howman payment policy, which is to support households with a shortfall in rent, and that shortfall is causing exceptional financial hardship, and then the Section 13A policy, which is to support those with paying their council tax in hardship. Both policies have been reviewed as part of our cyclical review. There have been no changes in legislation, with only minor amendments being made to the policies. The report also provides a brief update on the recently announced Crisis Resilience Fund, and we are awaiting details of this. Happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Dowd, would you like to re-ask your question?
I'll summarise rather than repeat the whole thing. My concern is that because we're rolling it forward, I'm curious to know about the scrutiny of those people particularly affected. It is a small number, and particularly those people where we have harmonisation of universal credit. So it's really about how are we looking at those particular cases. Thank you.
Jeremy, do you want to answer that?
I'll come in, but I suspect that Ryan will follow me with some more detail, particularly with the universal credit. With all these proposals and these schemes, there is a difficulty that arises because it is very rare that one size fits all. It's just a fact of life. Equally, it's impossible to write an individual scheme for every single resident of the New Forest. There is a balance to be received. Sometimes that balance can seem harsh when the legislation simply does not give us discretion, and in a number of areas that come forward, that is simply the long and the short of it. The government provides no discretion for us. It says, if you have adopted this, this is how it sits. I am particularly aware in that aspect of people who have got second homes and things like that, and some people feel very aggrieved in how that is introduced and run. We are always here to listen. We always listen to the side of the argument, but sometimes we simply choose to disagree. We come to a point where we disagree with people and how they see things. There is always an appeal method to do that, to take on from that, and ultimately an ombudsman if they feel that we have misplaced the administration on the scheme. But on the long and the short of it, I think we are a very good council, a very fair council, and do the best for all our residents, even when it gets quite difficult.
Thank you. Ryan, do you want to come back on those, please?
Yeah, thank you. Our scheme does align itself to universal credit, and that helps with automation, ease of administration and simplicity. So we do align ourselves with universal credit. We do also have the exceptional hardship payment scheme. So if anyone still has a shortfall between the amount of council tax support they receive and their council tax charge, in exceptional circumstances, we do have that policy to support those households in the short term. And whilst we're doing that process, we also signpost and provide additional advice and information, which may be things like the Household Support Fund or referrals to other agencies to provide that holistic approach to support.
Thank you. Any other... Oh, sorry, Malcolm, I forgot you. Sorry. Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. Similar lines to Philip's question, really, and forgive me for going on about OGR a lot today.
It's happening.
Yeah, no, it is. The issue is that it takes the localism out of local government. Now, I understand we have a broad brush policies for dealing with disadvantaged people in relation to this item. And that's right, because that's how you have to manage a process. But there are always some that slip through the net. What I would like to put at the plea is, because we know our area better, and this is no criticism of a future unitary, whichever one it goes to, and it may well be some same people doing it, but as an authority, we know our area better than anyone else. And as there are pockets of deprivation in the New Forest, pockets equal of the top 10% in the United Kingdom, will we ensure that we do not leave anybody through that net when we are not able to control how we support them? And will we take every measure possible to ensure there are no really disadvantaged people? That there's a legacy in this council that we leave. Our legacy is we help everybody that needs it.
I think that's a very difficult, almost question statement. I will go back to Ryan Stevens to answer that.
Thank you. I think that would be the decision for the new unitary authority to make their decision on the level of support they're able to provide their council taxpayers with the council tax support scheme. As I said, there will be additional support available through things like exceptional hardship payment schemes, crisis resilient fund schemes, household support fund schemes, working with partners, promoting other information and advice and support available. So that will be part of a new administration to make sure that's done and considered when developing any new schemes.
Councillor Heron.
Chairman, it worries me. I'm very much in agreement with Councillor Wade in some of those statements that he made on unusual position for me to find myself in. But I do agree with him that we have in the past, as a small local authority, supported our residents and had the ability to adapt and change. Our discretionary hand payments and our policy and crisis resilient fund obviously aimed at a very small area, and the smaller the area that you deal with, the easier it is to make exception and change and catch these people who are very often very vulnerable within our society. And I'm sure he will, as part of this administration and council, will look to make sure that we pass that across to any authority that takes over and ensures that they do understand this very unique nature of the New Forest. And as he says, within a very affluent area, we do have these pockets of severe deprivation and people in real need. And yes, I hope he works with us all, and I'm sure he will, to ensure that we pass on and that any new authority understands those needs of those people and that that need is met. Thank you.
I think that's all we can do is, as an authority, we will do our very best to not let people slip through the net. We don't know who we're going with yet. We don't know what the councillors and what the staffing position is going to be, but we will do our very best to stop them falling through. Okay? Thank you. Right, can I take Cabinet to the recommendations for Council? Do you agree them on pages 47 and 48?
Agreed.
Thank you. Right, item 10, half-yearly update, complaints performance and service improvement reports. This is a report of two halves. So firstly, we will go to Councillor Jeremy Heron, which will deal with general complaints.
Thank you very much, Chairman. As you'll see from the report, the general complaints for the council have increased in this half year. A large section of that obviously being within the area of our waste service. Pleased with how our waste service has improved and rolled out, but it does not come without its own difficulties. People do find these, and it is very important that they do have the ability to raise their concerns and for them to come into the council. I am very pleased, equally at the speed at which we are managing to turn those round now. Originally, in the initial stages, there was some issue with that, but that's being turned round and that lot, and being dealt with. But it is important that those people, but it has created a bit of a blip in our complaints procedure, which is never something that we're pleased to have. Let me assure you, we are always keen to deal with the council and ensure that people don't have grounds to complain. But it is equally important that when they do, those complaints are picked up and dealt with efficiently and effectively and in a timely manner. And as you will see from the report, that is what we are managing to do, deal with those within the time frames that is required under statute, and in fact exceeding that in a number of places. I'll pass across now to my colleague, Councillor Davies, who has the housing complaints area to deal.
Thank you, colleague Councillor Heron. Yeah, from a housing perspective, it particularly covers those complaints that have been received by the council in its capacity as the landlord and under the jurisdiction of the Housing Ombudsman. The council's housing service is committed to dealing with complaints effectively from tenants and learning from complaints to drive service improvements for the benefit of all our tenants. I've said this before, that you can only fix something if you measure it, and complaints are a good metric, which unfortunately do occur, but we can learn from it. Thank you, Rita.
Thank you. Can I now take us to Amanda Wilson, Information Governance and Complaints Manager? Amanda.
Thank you. The purpose of the report is to provide Cabinet as the governing body with the Complaints Performance and Service Improvement half-yearly update for the period of the 1st of April to the 30th of September, the first half of this financial year. The Council is under the jurisdiction of two Ombudsmen in relation to its complaints handling, the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman and the Housing Ombudsman in relation to complaints from tenants. Both Ombudsmen have complaint handling codes that the Council must meet. Cabinet's covering report sets out the requirements of those codes for self-assessments, annual reporting, compliance and scrutiny in relation to its complaints handling. In addition to the annual report, which is prescribed by the codes, the Council has chosen to produce a half-yearly update report to allow members to scrutinise complaints handling during the course of the financial year. The covering report outlines that it was taken to the Resource and Transformation Overview and Scrutiny Panel, with members of the Housing and Communities panel invited due to their interest in the housing elements of the report. At the panel, there were questions as well as comments and feedback that officers will take forward. I specifically draw attention for members to the following sections of the report. Section 5, which provides the overall overview of the number of complaints received during the relevant time, complaint findings, themes, dangers and timescales. Section 6, which includes the same information for tenant complaints. Section 8 covers Ombudsman decisions during the half-yearly period and confirms that there have been no complaints upheld or findings of maladministration during the first half of the financial year. And the report also includes examples of where complaints have not been accepted in accordance with the complaints procedure, as well as service requests that have been logged by the complaints team. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Cabinet, do you have any further comments? Councillor Jeff Blunden.
Thank you. Just picking up on the waste side, and certainly nobody wants to receive complaints, but I think on our collection we collect obviously refuse, recycling, food waste, we've got garden waste and also our glass waste collections. And to put that in perspective, we collect nearly 40,000 collections per day. So that gives a scale of the operational challenges that are in that area. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Can I just say that I know our customer services have been under a huge amount of pressure, and a huge thank you from all the councillors. You've done an absolutely sterling job. Thank you. We couldn't have done this without your support.
Right, you've got Steve and these two here.
So can I go to Councillor Steve Clark?
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say as Chair of the Housing and Communities Panel, as Amanda has pointed out, we regularly receive the information about housing complaints. And I just want to stress to everybody who might be listening to this meeting, etc., that we take it very seriously. Every complaint has to be properly looked at, properly dealt with. And it's very easy to look at the bald figures when we get reports like this, which highlight the complaints. And you can look at these numbers and think, oh, why is that happening? But the reality is that when you look at our total housing stock, the number of people that we are landlords for, these complaints come down to a very small but important number that we respond to with as much care and compassion as we can, vast majority of them are about minor repairs and things like that, which are going to occur in any property. I think it's important to note that I believe that we are a good landlord. We respond to all the issues as effectively as we can, but there is no such thing as a very perfect world, and sometimes things go wrong. And when they do go wrong, I am confident that with the information that we get from officers and the way we look at it at the panel across the party membership, that we actually do our best to learn from those mistakes and go forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Philip Dowd, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at points 22, 23 and 26 particularly. And I'm referring to Councillor Davis' comment that you can only fix something if you measure it, which I think is an excellent way of looking at things. I'm particularly concerned that there is no mention in the report about equalities and how we are serving people, particularly from the disabled community. Do we know that they are accessing the complaints process? Do we know how that group compares with other stats there? We know as a council we need to remove or minimise disadvantage. We need to meet the needs of people with protected characteristics, and we need to encourage participation from those groups. How are we measuring that particular group in the complaints process? Thank you.
Councillor Steve Davis, can you answer, please?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Dowd. I quite agree. We've had feedback recently about protected characteristics and how we measure and report on those. And that's something I'm very keen to actually home in on as well. I don't have all the information to hand right now. We can probably pass over to an officer to reply, but this is something we're certainly looking at.
Can I then go to Richard Knott, please?
Thank you, Chair. Richard Knott, Deputy Chief Executive. Thanks for the question. And as you say, it is important that we do recognise who's complaining and perhaps who isn't. And particularly in the housing landlord service, we have underway a data collection exercise for all tenants. We've gone out and done a bulk survey which returned 35% of results for all of our tenants. We gain new data from about 400 tenants each year, and then we have a follow-up programme now which will involve a number of ways of collecting data, particularly where tenants ring in to report repairs. Our gas servicing engineers have a QR code that allows the resident to do the survey there and then, and also we'll be doing a door knocking programme as well. So that over the next 12 months will gather a significant amount of data which will feed back into a number of reports, particularly around complaints, service access, service design. So we'll be utilising that in a number of other ways, not just for complaints. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wade.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. In 24-25, we had a 120% increase in complaints over the previous year. Now, I recognise this year we have a plethora of waste complaints, okay, but that is what it is. The issues that increased in 23-24, I suspect, but don't know for definite, it could be housing, tenant issues. Are we confident that because the vast number of complaints we'll get for the waste issue aren't going to cover other complaints, not going to be as prominent for the other complaints we get from other areas, particularly this? Because I don't really understand why there was such a big increase between those 2 years. I know that's not what this paper's about is last year, but there obviously was an issue. And are we confident that whatever that issue is, we're on top of it and it's not going to get lost in the mass of looking at waste? I hope I've articulated that question properly.
Okay, I can go to either Richard or Amanda. Richard, do you want to take this?
Thank you, Chair. Particularly just focusing on the housing repairs, the housing complaints. We do look at those separately they aren't looked at in bulk of the other complaints. So they are looked at separately. There is a separate learning programme which focuses just on the housing complaints, because that, as I say, coupled with the data exercise, is really important that we feed that back in and improve services. So that there's a whole host of people involved in each of those repairs and the learning, and then the changes, and then changes being monitored to make sure that they have the necessary impact. In terms of the increase in complaints, it's something we have been working on to encourage that. I think we are considered to have a low number of complaints for the housing service compared nationally, and we started from a low base. We've done a lot of encouragement of tenants to put forward complaints, and hopefully what the increase shows is that they have the trust in the service that will act upon those complaints and will implement change and will hold our hands up where we may have got things wrong. So that may be a demonstration of trust in us, and that we'll do the right thing.
Can I just say on the general complaints, there obviously was one particular planning issue, if you remember last year, that generated a significant number of complaints, and that was part of the spike. But obviously we are appreciative that whilst waste is one of those issues that we're looking at, that the other areas are equally important, and to make sure that where a complaint is, it's a one-off, not a systemic issue that we have to address within the council.
Thank you. Cabinet, can I now take you to the recommendations on page 75? Cabinet, do you agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 11, Lymington and Pennington Neighbourhood Plan Examiner's Report. I'd like you to take you to the portfolio holder, Councillor Derek Tibb.
Thank you, Leader. This report asks Cabinet to note the recommendations in the examiner's report and agree the proposed modifications, including further minor modifications identified by the two planning authorities. Then, subject to the separate agreement of the New Forest National Park, to agree for the plan to proceed to a referendum which will take place around the end of January 2026. I would like to congratulate the Lymington and Pennington Town Council and other residents who have worked on the preparation of this plan. It has been over 9 years in the making, and you now have an excellent document which I hope will serve the people of Lymington well. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I now take you to Andrew Herring, Senior Policy Planner? Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. I've got nothing to add at this stage, but very happy to take any questions.
Cabinet, do you have any further questions on this paper? I will take it out to the floor. No further questions. So, can I take Cabinet to the recommendations on page 121 to 122? Cabinet, do you agree?
Agreed.
Item 12, Waste Service Budgetary Position. Councillor Jeff Blunden, would you like to introduce the report?
Yes, thank you, Leader. This report sets out the current position on the rollout of the Council's new waste collection services and the steps needed to maintain its success. The service is delivering clear environmental benefits, including improved recycling rates and reduced litter, and it is essential that we continue to meet our statutory obligations under the Environmental Act of 2021. The report addresses the operational challenges in the areas of district-wide where free-roaming livestock are present. It recommends making permanent behind-the-gate collection of food waste caddies in these areas, which has proven to be effective in reducing animal interactions and safeguarding the reputation of the service. It also seeks to approve additional funding to maintain the service continuing of the Bring site provision. Importantly, the recommendations include our commitment to a full review after phase 1 of the rollout is complete. As set out in paragraphs 30 and 3, this review will allow us to consider the wider approaches of collections in these areas in the future, including a long-term change of approach to the collection of wheeled bins from areas in the open forest subject to livestock free roaming, that is behind the gate collections, and our bring sites, which will be informed by data, financial modelling and operational experience. The key points for consideration today are the permanent behind the gate collection of food waste caddies in the areas open to free roaming livestock, and additional funding to maintain the service continuity and bring site services, including 301,000 supplementary budget for 2025-26, 1.5 million annual increase from 2026-27 onwards, and 967,000 capital for additional vehicles in 2026-27. That commitment to a full review after phase 1 rollout will consider the wider approaches to collections in these areas, including our bring sites, with a view of improving overall service effectiveness and efficiency. The recommendations put to the Cabinet today are clearly financially significant, but these will ensure that the service remains resilient, environmentally responsibility and legally compliant, while leaving a scope for further considerations of long-term options once the service has fully bedded in. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Can I take us now to James Carpenter, Place, Operations and Sustainability?
Thank you, Leader. With a district-wide transformation of this substantial nature and scale, we necessarily continue to plan carefully and flex and adapt our operations and response where challenges or issues arise. And that's particularly given the unique nature of both the forest and the district. The Cabinet member has clearly set out the report, recommendations and budgetary asks, which also notes the partner engagement and necessary professional advice that has been taken and undertaken in arriving at those recommendations before you today, and that recommended further review, which, if I may note, is after phase 3.
Thank you. Cabinet, do you have any further comments or questions? I will open it to the floor. Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. Clearly, phase 1 was under-resourced and under-budgeted. So on behalf of the residents of the phase 3 area, which is the largest number of household doors we have yet to bring the new waste service to, are you confident we have enough resources and proper budget in place to ensure that our residents don't suffer the same problems that they have so far in phase 1 and to some lesser degree in phase 2?
So Jeff Blunden.
With regard to phase 1, I think it's been well documented. We have learnt many lessons from phase 1, and as we brought, which we will continue to learn from those lessons as we go into phase 3. I think, as been mentioned before, this is a major logistical operational change, one that hasn't been carried out in the New Forest for many years. As far as the finances are concerned, we do our utmost to ensure that they are correct, but I think one must have regard to the scale and size of what we're dealing with. I certainly have confidence as we go forward with phase 3 that that phase will be delivered as we would wish.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Steve Clark, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think it's been very easy over the last few months to look at all the negatives that came out of phase 1. And I wouldn't for 1 minute sort of say that there weren't mistakes and things that had to be rectified. There clearly were. Councillor Wade talks about have we learnt from those lessons. I feel confident we probably have learnt from those lessons, and he'll be able to benefit from that on his side of the forest. But the positives, I think, have been overlooked. And I think it is that we need at times to think of the positives of the change in our waste services. If you live in an urban area such as New Milton, you've got the immediate benefits. I no longer get woken up on a Monday morning by the loud raucous sounds of the seagulls. They have disappeared because they're no longer being fed by local residents through their black waste bins. I no longer see scattered food waste all the way across the roads, which our teams have to go around behind the waste trucks to collect it. The streets of the urban areas are cleaner. It is much more environmentally friendly. So this change in service, albeit with the problems which have had to be fixed, is actually an extremely positive experience for a vast majority of the residents. That's not to say I don't understand and sympathise with those residents that have encountered problems, but for most of us, and I know people in the urban areas will agree that this is a big improvement.
No seagulls were harmed. Oh, Councillor Peter Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say, really, the officers, after what happened, I think we had the Brockenhurst instance, as most people will remember, and I ended up doing a report myself, which is rare for a councillor to write a report because we normally read them. But the solutions and the ideas and the gargantuan effort that officers put in at that stage to turn around some of the lessons that we were learning over things, especially with, the animals and everything. I must congratulate the officers because the amount of effort and time and changes that happened so rapidly, learning those lessons was an incredible task. And I think that needs to be kept on record because the turnaround was incredible, which Phase 2 has benefited from. And I'm sure Phase 3 will benefit from as well. I know it's cost us more money, but there's some big lessons learned. And the turnaround was, well, I don't think I've seen that very often in council so quickly. And I've worked for different councils, but the turnaround that officers and staff made at that point was to be really commended.
Thank you. Councillor Philip Dowd.
Thank you. One thing that, as far as I'm aware, is missing from this is the education side about waste reduction. Do I assume from that the budget in place for education in that to make sure that we are seriously considering how we reduce waste in the forest is properly funded? Thank you.
Councillor Blunden, do you wish to answer that?
Yeah, I think this certainly thank you for that remark. Certainly the education is an important thing, and I know we have got in place as we move forward to actually pick that up, and officers will be reaching out with particularly schools and right the way across our community to try and pick up on the important side of explaining to people the benefits of recycling and what we do.
And also not buying as much food and using up food as well. I think that really does need to be looked at. Thank you. Can I now take Cabinet to the recommendations on page 227 through to 228? Cabinet, do you agree?
Agree.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody's attendance today, and thank you for the people watching us on YouTube. I hope you have enjoyed our meeting and understand the workings of the Council. I would now like to declare this meeting closed. Thank you.